As you would pass judgment on her, I have come to pass judgment on you all. Do you wish to feel the teachings born of the Mandalorian Wars? Of all tragedies that scream across the galaxy? Let me show you. You, who have forever seen the galaxy through the Force. See it through the eyes of the exile.
Hello everyone, and today we're going to be taking a look at Knights of the Old Republic 2, the Sith Lords, in 2024 or 2025, depending on when I upload this video. It might be close, it's cutting it close, so it depends how long it takes to get all the footage together and edit. We might make it into 2025, but so this is the 20th-ish anniversary of Knights of the Old Republic 2. It is between 2004 and 2005, so if we get the video up in 2024 or 2025, we'll still be hitting that 20th anniversary because, of course, Knights of the Old Republic 2 first launched on the 6th of December 2004 for the Xbox. It then was launched on PC a few months later on the 8th of February 2005. So, both are valid for the 20th anniversary, so we'll go with that. So 2024, 2025, of course it is the follow-up to the original Knights of the Old Republic, which was developed by BioWare and published by LucasArts. This time they've handed the development reins over. BioWare handed them over to Obsidian Entertainment. Not a bad choice, really. Obsidian had a history of picking up old BioWare projects. They picked up Neverwinter Nights too, they did that. And Obsidian have a good habit of, picking up other projects and making them better, as some people would say. Certainly with Fallout New Vegas as well. There's another Bethesda IP that they picked up and made it better. So is Knights of the Old Republic 2 a worthy sequel to the classic Knights of the Old Republic? Let's find out in this video. So of course you can play it on the original Xbox as it was at release, because Knights of the Old Republic 2 was never Xbox Live enabled. So you can play it on the original hardware, unpatched, unfortunately. It is compatible with the Xbox One and Xbox Series consoles. The only update that it's ever had on the Xbox is an Xbox One X enhancement. So it does render at 4K, still at the original frame rate, no FPS boost. Not that you need it, to be honest. 30-ish FPS is okay. And if you're playing on the Series X, which most of the footage is from the Series X, you will get 4K because it does benefit from the Xbox One X enhancement patch. But that's it. There's no restored content mod. There's nothing else there. The PC version, however, does feature the restored content mod, which was added to the game. It adds in a few bit of extra cutscenes, little bit of extra content that was cut due to time. Again, Obsidian turned this around in under a year, because this came out a year after, just about a year and a half after Knights of the Old Republic 1. Yeah, so they didn't have a huge amount of time to turn it around, Obsidian. But what they did turn around was pretty good, to be fair. The PC version does have the restored content mod. It's also released in 2020. It released on Android and iOS, so you can get it on your phone or tablet. And again, this version also features the restored content mod as well. Works okay with the touchscreen, similar to Knights of the Old Republic 1. Because it is real-time combat with active pause, then yeah, it doesn't really matter. You can pause the game and issue commands via the touchscreen. It's not an action game. It was also then later released in 2022 on the Nintendo Switch, and this is just a port of the mobile version, which is quite kind of disappointing, but, it's okay on the Switch. It looks fine on a small screen, so on the mobile, or if you're playing in portable mode, on the Switch it's fine, but if you play it on a big screen, you can really see some of the cutbacks that they made for the mobile version. Most notably, the ground textures, which are just missing. It's like the PC version running on low settings back in the day. But I don't know why they're missing. Not missing in the original Xbox version, nor the PC version, but I guess it is cuts for the mobile. It's weird because they've got like the grass is still there, but the texture underneath it is just soup, and it looks terrible. And also the mines don't animate either. Now the little dome that goes over the mines don't animate on the mobile or the Switch version for some reason. But this is not the worst version of the game. The worst version of the game, I'll start with the best version. The best version is the PC version. Because it has the least issues, it has the restored content mod. If you buy it on Steam, you can just, it has Steam Workshop support, so all you do is go into Steam Workshop. Usually the restored content mod should be there on the first page, and all you do is hit subscribe, and that's it. You can get other mods for it on Steam as well. Again, having Steam Workshop is really nice. Transfers nicely over to the Steam Deck as well. It is listed as playable, and yes, it is playable, because there is an official Linux version of the game that released in 2015. So it does run, does require you using the keyboard or the virtual keyboard to enter some text. That's why it's not deck verified, but it works okay with a controller. It's not the best because the controller support, it really is, the PC version just feels like it was never designed for controller support. The UI, they've tried to kind of mimic the Xbox version, but it just doesn't quite work out as well. The PC version is best, although if you are having issues on the PC, with getting stuck after getting into combat, it will just freeze your character in place. The solution to this is to just lower the frame rate, or introduce a frame rate cap. Something sensible like 60 FPS should be fine. Again, it's not an action game, you don't need a high frame rate, because if you've got most modern PCs and modern laptops these days, most people have high refresh rate monitors now. You know, I've got 165 hertz display, and if you enable VSync, it just caps the frame rate to 165 FPS. And this is, again, it's too high. You're still gonna get stuck in combat. It runs about 300 odd FPS. Uncapped. So you can use the NVIDIA control panel, you can use the AMD, I can't remember what AMD's software is called, but I know it has a per game profile as well to limit the frame rate to 60 FPS, or alternatively, you can just use Riva Tuner Statistics Server. Again, just limit it to something quite low. It does run at 90 FPS, I will say, without the sort of freezing in place glitch on the Steam Deck OLED, so maybe you can get away with 90, but I just went with 60. Again, it's not a game that particularly requires a high frame rate, so, you know, go with something sensible, something lower. I guess it's just not designed for high refresh rate monitors. The Switch and the Xbox and the mobile versions, they tend to run at about 30 FPS, so you don't really have those issues. But yeah, the worst version of the game is the Xbox version. Despite my complaints about the visuals and the Switch version, the Switch version has the restored content mod, and it has bug fixes. The Xbox version is as it was, and the emulation that it's running under on the Xbox Series X or Xbox One consoles, there are some visual hiccups, particularly with lightsabers. I don't know, maybe it just can't scale. Maybe there's just not enough data to scale the lightsabers correctly. To me, that was pretty off-putting. It does crash a lot. I did experience a game-ending bug, which was kind of interesting, on the Xbox version. So I could not get off of Paragus. Now, you start the game as the player character, and then you rescue Aten, and then you're up on the administration level, and you then switch over to T3M4, and you then you do a few things and unlock the turbo lifts. Well, I did that as T3M4. You're meant to then switch back to the player character and be on the administration level. However, I switched back to the player character, and we were right where T7 was. So we were stuck forever. I tried reloading old saves, couldn't do it. Had to roll another character. So initially I rolled a male character on the Xbox, and then I just re-rolled a female. Called her Mitra Surik, as is canon. So that's why all the footage on the Xbox and the Switch is of female characters. Because I tried, and the game just glitched out. Tried it again, restarted the game, made a new character, and everything was okay. So there is that. There is other issues. It did crash a lot on the Xbox. We did get a few crashes. Again, this is just due to the nature of it being unpatched. So it is more stable on PC, Nintendo Switch, and mobile. So I would recommend not playing the original Xbox version, which is a shame because it is, that was the first version I played initially. But yeah, those bugs have been there for 20 years now.
There is one last thing. Your lightsaber. Surrender it to us.
See, this is the thing. Playing KOTOR 2 in the current year, I'll just say current year, because whatever year this goes out, it really shows you how far we've fallen in terms of RPGs, in terms of quality, in terms of writing. Knights of the Old Republic 2 is the best written game I've ever played. And I've never played a game with better writing than that. And the best character in Knights of the Old Republic 2, the best character in all of Star Wars is Kreia. Kreia is an incredible character. The reason why Revan is so popular, because of course KOTOR 2 is set 5 years after the events of Knights of the Old Republic 1. You're playing as the Last Jedi, not that one. Mitra Surik, we'll just use her canon name, shall we? That's what I created. So you're the last of the Jedi. The Jedi Order are all but extinct in the galaxy. And of course, Revan has disappeared. You can change Revan's story. Your first conversation with Atton lets you set whether Revan was light side or dark side or male or female. So you can set that up, and that sets up the rest of the game's canon, shall we say. But yeah, you can play this light side and dark side. But Kreia is an incredible character. Kreia really puts over Revan in this game. Revan's the star of Knights of the Old Republic too. Revan, and he's not even in it. You encounter there's a Force Ghost version of Revan that you encounter on Korriban. But Revan isn't actually in the game, and Revan is the star of Knights of the Old Republic too. Of course, Kreia big time puts Revan over so well. That's why I think Revan is so legendary and so revered. Because of course the big reveal was in Knights of the Old Republic 1 is that you were Revan. You were playing through Revan's. That's why you had the memories trying to find the Star Forges. You were Revan. You were remembering your own past, and the Jedi Council had erased your memory. Similar thing happens with Mitra Surik. Of course, you could refer to her as Mitra Surik. That's her canon name. The Exile, as you referred to. You were put on trial, of course, by the Jedi Council and sentenced to exile. You were sentenced to wander the Outer Rim. Although the game does start... I love the start of the game, I have to say. You start on the Ebonhawk, what's left of it anyway, as it's been in a battle somewhere, and you have to repair the ship as T7... sorry, T3. Is it T3 or T7? T7 was SWOTOR, T3 was KOTOR. I can never remember. I've got to get that right. And then that takes you through the tutorial. And I really love the Paragus mining facility. And I'm kind of sad that people don't like this, because I think it's one of the best opening levels in any RPG I've ever played. It's a great... You wake up in the Coltopod, you think Kreia's dead, you meet Kreia. And then the game takes you through sort of the various different tutorials it is. And I love the atmosphere in Paragus, because something's gone wrong, but you don't know what. You get little tidbits of the plot. There's a bounty on Jedi. The Exchange have placed a bounty on live Jedi. That develops as the game goes on. But that's interesting. It starts a lot of threads. You get to meet Atton, of course, as your first party member. One of the most useful in the game, I've got to say, because he's got stealth, security, and demolitions. 3 of the most useful skills that you can have. Again, you start KOTOR 2 as a Jedi class. You can pick between the Consular, the Sentinel, and the Guardian. The Consular is more focused on Force abilities. You gain more Force points every level, and the least amount of hit points at every level. The Guardian is the opposite of that. Again, you gain more hit points, and you gain less Force points. So again, you're more focused on mostly melee combat as a Guardian, more bit tanky. The Sentinel is a balance of them both, and the Sentinel is a class I prefer to be honest with you. Never thought to say that for the Sentinel. If you know me from SWTOR, you'll know I hate Sentinels and Marauders mainly, but the Sentinel's a nice choice because you get a decent range of skills as the Sentinel, and you can be quite self-sufficient. There are parts of the game you'll have to play solo, and the Sentinel is probably the best for those parts because you're going to have a balanced set of skills. Again, balances between melee and force powers as well. You can be a ranged class if you want. You can just pick ranged abilities, and when you level up, pick ranged feats and use blaster pistols. But you do start as a Jedi. You will get the prestige class when you get, I think it's a certain point in the story, usually around level 15, 16, if you chat to Kreia after you complete your first planet, because you do get to decide what order you do the planets in, as with Knights of the Old Republic 1, and then of course there's some linear parts at the beginning and the end. It ends at Malachor 5 as well there. But yeah, you do get the advanced classes. Again, you can hybrid spec, like if you weren't happy with the Guardian and you want to be more Force user, you can pick, it depends whether you're dark side or light side, you'll get a Sith Lord or Jedi Master. You then get the Marauder and the Jedi Weapon Master, and then you get the Jedi Watchman and the Sith Assassin are the options. Essentially, they're just mirrored of each class, depending on whether you're playing light or dark. But again, the Jedi Watchman is just a continuation of the Sentinel. You'll get some more abilities there. But again, it's focused on being balanced. Again, the Jedi Weapon Master is more focused on combat abilities and, you know, being durable and less focused on force, and the Jedi Master is focused on force abilities rather than combat. Up to you what you pick. The game recommends for new players that you pick the Jedi Guardian at the start, but I would say Sentinel is a good pick. You've got a nice, well-rounded range of skills, so you get fairly good security skills, although you do have Atten in the party to do your lockpicking. You should always do lockpicking and disarm mines because you get XP for doing it, so you'll get extra XP. The level cap, of course, has been increased from 20 to 30 to account for these prestige classes from KOTOR 2. It does, again, run on the same game engine. It runs on BioWare's Odyssey engine, and a lot of assets are reused, but that's understandable. Like, Dantooine is mostly the same as KOTOR, bit smaller. The Jedi Temple is in ruins this time, because it is set, of course, 5 years after the Jedi Civil War, which you take part in Knights of the Old Republic, so from the events of KOTOR 1. It's a pity we never got a KOTOR 3, but yeah, the quality of the storytelling and the writing, it doesn't matter whether you're light-sided or dark-sided, Kreia will pick you apart. Kreia is your mentor and your master. And it doesn't matter which option you pick. Kreia will find flaws in every single option. And that's what I love about it. Is like, she's kind of this, you know, this mentor, master figure that's gonna test your own beliefs. And I think that's kind of unique. I've never really seen that, especially in modern games where everyone just has a set of ideals and they just kind of stick to them, whether you agree or disagree with them or not. I did play Dragon Age Veilguard after this, and it was one of the biggest downgrades I think I've ever seen, going from KOTOR 2 to that. But yeah, I love the way Kreia challenges you. You know, you get to see the consequences of your actions. The scene with the beggar on Nar Shaddaa, whether you choose to help the beggar or tell the beggar to get lost. So your cruelty has consequences and your generosity has consequences. And you see how neither of them are right, neither of them are wrong. They just have different consequences. I like the way they both play out, though. It shows you what being cruel is, and it shows you what being overly generous. Giving him something he has not earned is like pouring sand into his hands. That's a good line. Kreia has some of the best lines ever. And the other companions are okay. You've got the returning companions from KOTOR. You've got Atten, who's again the most useful in combat. Got an interesting backstory. If you play as a female character, you'll get the Disciple as a companion. If you play as a male character, you get the Last Handmaiden, Brianna, her name is, if you get a high influence with her. And the influence system is another point we should talk about as well. We've got the returning, you get Canderous, who's Mandalore now, and HK-47, who you have to rebuild there, because someone's shot him to pieces, and you have to pick up his pieces through the galaxy. You are hunted by HK droids inferior models to HK-47s. HK-47 makes a return. You also get Mira, who's pretty useful as well. She can't set off mines, so you can use that to your advantage as well there with Mira. If you're ever having to go through a minefield, just go into solo mode and then just goad enemies towards you with ranged attacks and watch them walk through the minefield, whereas you can run through it scot-free because you don't detect mines. So that's a good little gameplay tip there. But the influence system we'll talk about now. The influence system is one of the best features. Basically, you are rebuilding the Jedi Order, and your companions will be influenced by your actions. So you go dark side, they'll go dark side as well. You're light-sided. There are some companions that have their alignment fixed. Like HK-47, for example. You'll never convince HK-47 to go light-sided ever. You know, you're just an insignificant meatbag to HK-47. Canderous as well is pretty much dark-sided. But yeah, so you can turn a lot of them into Jedi. Mira, Aten, the Disciple, or Brianna, depending whether you're male or female. You can turn them into Jedi as well, and that was a pretty good thing. So again, they or turn into Sith, I think, if you're dark-sided as well. I always preferred playing it on the light side. I don't know why, it just seemed like a better story for redemption. KOTOR 1 I thought was better on the dark side, getting redemption and getting revenge on your former master. It seemed like the right thing to do, whereas you're kind of trying to rebuild the Jedi Order, aren't you, after destroying it mostly in the previous game. I felt like, better make that up. So I always preferred the light side option going in KOTOR 2. The dark side option, not a fan of it, to be honest, but that's my preference as well. But again, you gain influence with your companions, and at certain influence levels, you will gain extra conversation options. You'll get to find out about their backstory. Eventually, the goal is to turn them to Jedi as well. You also get Visas. I forgot to mention Visas as well. The Mira Luca, the blind Sith. Visas Mar, of course. Darth Mar's great grandmother, I guess. 300 years. 300 years it's set. What's 300 years? How many years, how many family cycles is that? Because Darth Mar was a popular guy, and Visas Mar, of course. And we can't, of course, talk about the Sith Lords. That's the one criticism I'd have about KOTOR 2, is the Sith Lords feel particularly underdeveloped. It is the subtitle of the game, the Sith Lords. They are a little bit underdeveloped. You've got Darth Sion, Darth Nihilus, and then, spoiler alert, Darth Traya. I'm not going to reveal that for you, okay? So that's the big sort of spoiler of the game. But it is definitely worth it, and definitely there. But yeah, I would say Darth Sion, interesting. Darth Nihilus is the most interesting, and I think the most underdeveloped. You do get a few conversations with Visas, and the fact that Nihilus is just an entity rather than a person now. It's just a force, an entity in the Force that consumes all Force-sensitive life is a pretty cool concept, but you never really see him do it. I mean, you get to see what Vitiate do it, Tenebrae, whatever you call them, do it in Star Wars: The Old Republic. They do it to Ziost, so it would have been nice to see that in KOTOR 2. That would have been a few criticisms. Gameplay-wise, it is mostly the same as Knights of the Old Republic 1. It is the active real-time combat with active pause. There we go. Yeah, it's pretty much the same. The only issue is with the game is, of course, the companions' pathfinding skills. Pretty terrible. The enemies' pathfinding skills are also terrible, so you can take advantage of that. You can bottleneck them in. Like I suggested with Mira, you can get Aten to lay down mines, go into stealth, pull some enemies with Mira, and then just watch them run through the mines. They're not intelligent enough to avoid them. Just go into solo mode as well. If you stealth, you automatically go into solo mode. But yeah, there's not a lot of new mechanics added to the game. That's one thing I will say. There's not a massive amount of new abilities, despite they're adding new classes and increasing the level cap. You thought that they would have added some new things, but again, time constraints would be the big thing there. The restored content mod does add a lot of new dialogue into the game, adds a lot of new cutscenes and new dialogue for you. Fills in a little bit of the backstory because, of course, Obsidian didn't have time to get it. The fact that they got it ready within the time scale and produced one of the best games ever made. It's one of the best sequels ever made. And it's definitely, this is why we criticize Disney Star Wars. A lot of people, like, you know, all us older fans have a go at them. Not because they didn't live up to the prequels or didn't live up to the original trilogy. I played Knights of the Old Republic too, you know. That was the pinnacle. It was the pinnacle of Star Wars, I think. And that's why we're disappointed in Star Wars The Old Republic as well. Everything else after KOTOR 2 has felt like a downgrade. Maybe Revenge of the Sith was not as big a downgrade, but Revenge of the Sith was good after. That came out a year later, in 2005. But yeah, everything else has felt like a downgrade. But that is my look at Knights of the Old Republic. I will give you advice. Don't do Nar Shaddaa first. That was my mistake on the PC. I had to put cheats on to get through it, because there's a lot of solo sections. Do that last, I will say, because you can decide where you want to go. You go to Onderon, you go to Duxon first, and then Onderon, which is the moon beside Duxon. You go to Korriban, which is a pretty short-lived visit to Korriban. Nar Shaddaa, you get to go there as well, an iconic planet as well, and back to Dantooine as well. Telos as well is where you have to go back there. You go there at the start, after Paragus, and then you come back there towards the end when you have to face Nihilus again. But yeah, that was, again, does reuse a lot of assets. It is in the same engine, which makes sense, again, just to save time and money for Obsidian there. And yeah, Obsidian are the masters of producing sequels to franchises that have been well established, I gotta say. Yeah, Fallout New Vegas, Neverwinter Nights 2, and Knights of the Old Republic 2. Let's hope Avowed is good, though. Just hope that Avowed is good. But anyway, there you go. That is Knights of the Old Republic 2. Absolutely play it in 2024, 2025, or whatever. Play it today. It is one of the best written games. It may have a few bit of jank, especially when it comes to pathfinding skills. Sometimes your companions get stuck, or getting at him to shoot things is difficult at times because he just kind of stands there. Even though I've set him to ranged, set him to be active and ranged as well. You do get stances as well in the game as well. You've got the different lightsaber forms, and you've got like force channel as well, which so yeah, you can change that based on the situation. But anyway, that is all for this video, so thank you for joining me, and be sure to check out Knights of the Old Republic 2, because it is one of the best games ever made, despite the jank, and certainly one of the best RPG games ever made, and one of the best stories ever made. So anyway, that is all for this video, so thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon, and goodbye.